Tonight's meeting of the BCC is today's meeting. That's what I think. ACDC's Thunderstruck is an appropriate thing for today's November 13th meeting. Let me tell you something, folks. I've been going to meetings for 25 years. I've gone to probably close to 400. And I've never been elected to something. I didn't get paid to go to them. I went to participate in a form of U.S. government where we're allowed our First Amendment right to air our grievances or our congratulations to the way our government is run. It's a constitutional right is what it is. And tonight or today, through a series of things and a series of events in the last couple of weeks, was a complete shit show. Now, the opinion of Alan Osborne is that the firing or the attempted firing today of Quinn Robertson was because there's some things going about in the county, requested investigations, and Quinn and Joe Turner, both outside guys who are hired upon their qualifications. There's some locals that are real scared that they're real close to pulling the string off the sweater if it hadn't been pulled before. So I'll preface this to you commissioners listening to me. I don't think Quinn is no fool. If he's a military intelligence background, that means he's written down everything you fools have said to him. Because I think he knew the deal when he got on board. And you're not scared, y'all. And Joe Turner, well, he's ready to dig in because he said that's a bunch of BS getting targeted by him. But the hero of the day was Brad Drake, who called what they did today evil. And I believe that. Because he poised that and he apologized to Mr. Turner for being caught as a political pawn. But in Walton County, if you prove something that's unpopular, whether you're right or wrong, you're probably right if they're coming after you. That's a dead giveaway. But if you prove something right, they are willing to sacrifice you and your family in the names of covering up the truth and saving their own ass. And they're willing to use the power of the Constitution. And because they know that the elected officials that we've all entrusted to make sure our government runs correctly, that some of them don't have the balls to do it. And, pardon my French, but tonight, Brad Drake and Donna Johns found a lot of moral courage to say they'd had enough, and the rest of us saw it. Now, we'll start out the meeting that this was a special meeting. And the category of such was Tony Anderson called it as an emergency. Okay, so let's go into what Tony, you watched the beginning of the video to see Glidewell is as nervous as a cat in a box. And the theme throughout the night is Boots and Tony can't sit still in their chair and they all stare down when they're wrong, or they put their hands over their mouth when they talk to each other because they don't want anybody to hear what they're saying. So the first violation that Tony brings up is Tony Anderson. First, he said he has some concerns. In 4 minutes, those concerns turned into a motion to fire the county administrator. 4 minutes. Now, what did Tony say? First, he read from a report from their operations inspector. Well, a lot of people miss what Tony said, but go back and listen to what he says. I didn't miss it. He said this was a report by his operations inspector. Well, who the hell was the operations inspector? Who was that? Let's see if I put his picture up here, if I've still got it in the archive. No, that was Gary Madison. Somewhere I've got his convict picture, who's now quit the county. That was the political hitman, Trey Nix aide, who they went and had that report written on, which gave them such grand suggestions as giving Scott Brandon a job as a congressional aide, although I don't see that in there, which gives me to something I couldn't talk about. Who hired Scott? Who wrote Scott's job? But Tony starts out about bragging about a report from Gary Madison. Well, that's not, just having his name to it is not worth the paper it's written on. He was investigated himself when he was at the county and quit after being arrested for beating his wife's ass in the Bayou Bills parking lot. That's what they charged him with, And you can look up his picture. I've got the articles on what happened. So I think Clay was his attorney. Go figure. So Tony refers to this report. And then he goes to say that it's against statute. By God, he's broke the statute. What'd he do? He hired an assistant director or director without our consent. So when it comes back to Quinn, it finally comes out. Quinn didn't appear to have hired anybody, and Tony couldn't name anybody. So it came down to Tony had an emergency meeting. The only real charge I picked out is that Quinn might have vaped in a county building or vehicle. Somehow Tony turned that in to that warranted an emergency meeting and firing. But what really is key, people, is what you can't see. The people who were in the audience, Shitman, Shithead, and his fat assistant who got fired from the county. She's all made up in there, come to watch him fire somebody. She's all fired up about it. Yeah, them. And then there was Lee Perry, the chair of the planning commission. And Jason Catalano, what the hell were you doing there, Jason? Are you afraid that they're going to unravel the sweater where you lied and got sued over the Sandestin stuff? You piece of shit. Man, we're all sick of this after watching this today. You should have seen that Trey Nick showed up wearing a bat like a ethics complaint over what he was complaining on was a badge of honor. And the good old boys of Skunks were in the back hanging on and hugging him. Meanwhile, at the front of the room, good was overcoming evil. That's what was going on. So we get into this, and Tony brings it to a vote. Wants to bring it to a vote, he says. Let's vote to fire him. Cut our losses. You don't have a plan? 4 months into that, and Tony proceeds to blame the county's morale on our 4-month. He says the county employees' morale is at an all-time low. Maybe the people who've been lying and getting away with it, but they want to change all this to protect themselves. If the morale's at a all-time low, Tony, well, the last report I saw had to do with code enforcement was at an all-time low. All that happened before Quinn got here. Why was it at an all-time low? You reckon the morale's at an all-time low? So you wanted to fire Quinn for the all-time low morale because he never hired a director that you could see. You produced absolutely no proof. Go watch Tony closely. And if you've ever seen Tony speak, he's passionate about what he talks to. Today, he read from a script that a bunch of lawyers and developers gave him and said, and some key employees who are scared they'll get fired when the truth comes out, and said, oh God, you got to get rid of the outsiders because they might tell the truth. That's what today's meeting was about. So like I said, Tony realizes it's going to fail. And Donna Johns is highly upset. And Danny Gladwell has the guts to pass the gavel because nobody wants to second it. Tony's breaking policy. And then bravo Commissioner Johns for playing Tony's own words back to him and making that dwarf eat them. I've never seen Tony's stature so low to have sold us all off to save his supporters. Tony's got to be put out of office. Phony Tony returned with a vengeance today, and anything good he was done was undone today. As Brad Drake told him, this is evil in an attempt to power play the people's government. Danny didn't even want us to talk. He didn't. And in fact, Tony withdrew his motion because he knew it had been lost. And Brad bravely motioned to get rid of Clay as a problem because honestly, almost all problems in the county have the word Atkinson attached to them. Clay even had the guts to tell somebody to take an issue to the sheriff's department. We were like, yeah, take it to my cousin. Yeah, my cousin to help you out. Tony, why did you find, Mr. Anderson, why did you find Quinn's conduct so offensive? But when somebody was carrying your naked aide around, right, Sarah, and she was part of a lawsuit, and you were on some of these government trips where all this shit went down, you set your little short you know what you are today and what you were today. You just sat there and said nothing about all the shit that you knew about. Plus, Tony said that Clay was conflicted when we hired him. And today, Tony had a chance to fire him and he passed. And Boots had a chance to fire him and he passed. So they don't really want rid of Clay. And that came out today. In fact, Brad Drake challenged them to take an oath right there in front of everybody on what some of the things had happened. And Donna and Brad wanted to take an oath and swear in to tell the truth, but Tony and Boots and Danny did not want to tell the truth. Now, what hypocrites. Later on in the meeting, they made everybody swear in that they were going to tell them the truth, but they didn't make us make them. I think we need to make a policy where the elected officials have to all swear in before we say Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, why would an elected official not want to tell the truth? So after they realized they couldn't fire Quinn, they wanted to attack Joe. But Danny wouldn't let the comments because they were going to be worse than the gang he'd hired up. They had everybody in the back. They even clapped when Clay didn't get fired. Oh my God, it was sickening, but that's a small group and we all smell it. Man, it stinks. You think about that. A commissioner had to tell us that what they were using people for when they didn't get their way was political power, and it was evil. And you know something? Drake got it 100% right. Having been the scapegoat for discovering the county out of compliance myself, anybody who discovers something that they don't have something on will be summarily shown the door. And today it was stopped by good citizens and good leadership, taking the bull by the horns and calling bullshit coming out of the bull. That's what happened today. And our assistant or deputy or whatever title they give him, Mr. Turner, way to go on you for standing up for yourself. They wanted to fire this man for stuff he'd said since he was 17. And then they wanted to come up with new rules to protect the directors. Are you trying to protect them, Tony and Danny? We didn't get comment on that. Anything Danny didn't want discussed in public, they just started doing stuff over and over without emotion. It was scripted. Clay looked shocked when Brad wanted to fire him, but truthfully, Clay, Tony said the same thing. Boots doesn't want you in there, but nobody's going to take that job because Clay's in it. And look at what we discovered today, that they can organize a personal lynching of two people who've never done anything wrong in Walton County that somebody's actually showed us, and destroy their careers and lives because they might uncover the truth or enforce the law freely. I mean, there was so much that happened today. It's hard to believe the shit show. Go to the end and watch what myself and Danny Cosin tell. I'm going to tell you, Glidewell, that's just a steaming pile of shit, and I don't even think he lives in his district. I hate to say it. Boots, you better distance yourself, son. I don't care if you get elected or not. But if you're going to sit up there and sing that and not want to swear in, that smells like 4-day-old omelets left outside. Bad eggs. We should never, a commissioner should never want to not swear in when they make a statement. That's scary. But this shit show today, I'm just telling you, it was staged. Our government was staged, just as bad as what we see in DC. But the veterans today out there were saving us. And today, Brad Drake took a serious leadership step for this county with Donna Johns in lockstep with him. All we need is one more good person put on the commission, and the emperor will have no clothes. Glidewell, I understand, has an ethics complaint. Is that right, Danny? If I'd have known, I'd have asked you about it in public. But I told Danny up there, I got the emails where you're breaking policy yourself. And Tony broke it today. But when I show them that an employee has broken the law, hey, Danny, and hey, administrator and assistant administrators, a complaint was turned into code. And code has received letters from the state saying that the opinion of the Florida Board of Professional Engineers is that the county is using the wrong standards, i.e. breaking the law, and they know it. And the state agency told Mac and them, and they're ignoring it. So Mac wants Quinn gone, where he can't have any say-so of him, because Mac believes he's above the law and he's been empowered to it. That's right. Anybody that says I'm saying something about him, it's a lie, take me to court. Prove it's a lie, because you can't. I've got the documents, and folks, you don't have to believe me. Simply log on and use the information. What's the body language? What's Boots and Tony twist? Watch Doc Glidewell try to tell another commissioner, whoa, you can't say that. You damn right she can say it, Danny. You don't have a bit more power than Commissioner Johns, and you don't have the right to modify the First Amendment to us citizens to tell you you're doing it wrong just because you don't like it. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. But you really belong behind a set of bars. That's where you belong, Danny. You sure don't belong leading anybody. You couldn't run the jail. You're an awful commissioner, and you know the law's being broken, but you want to hide and cover it up. Again, today's show is dedicated to exposing phony Tony and Lidewell. Boots, quit sitting the fence. Either do good or get the fuck out of the way. And to Donna Johns and Brad Drake, on behalf of the fallen people and the people who served after me and before me and me, thank you for trying to make the Constitution matter for the average person. It shouldn't be a two-tiered system of the elected and the connected. We all matter, and we all want fair. And right now we're in danger of losing the republic. Stand up, people. Require accountability of your government officials. It's your money, it's your lives, and it affects you every day. Take a stand for something. I've always lived by the motto, and the Lord says, and who shall I send? And who will go for us? And when there's crisis, I've always said, here am I, Lord, send me. And today, some more warriors took that oath right in front of us. Congratulations, Drake and Johns, on taking lead. That's all on the Alan Osborne Show. I hate to bring you all this bad news. Wouldn't it be awesome if we were proud of what they were doing? And today also, they passed a great development because they said it had no variances. And then when Commissioner John said, oh yeah, they paid proportional fair share, guess what? They've already admitted that's a variance. You got lied to today, Commissioner Johns. You can't make this shit up, but I can tell you about it. That's the Alan Osborne. Y'all keep them straight. They can't keep themselves straight. Thank you for tuning in.